My name is Claudia and I'm with IDX. Today is Manifest Expo Day 1. Today we'll be discussing with senior thought leaders and partners about the supply chain ecosystem. Let's connect on idxtv.com for more comprehensive coverage. Let's talk. Good afternoon, my name is Claudia and I'm with IDX. Today is day 1 of Manifest Expo 2025. Here I have my special guest, Rich Bulger, as well as our Executive Director of RLA, Tony Sciarrotta. Tony, Rich, how are you today?
We are terrific, and it's beautiful sunny weather here in Las Vegas, and it's nice change.
Yes, definitely.
Wonderful conference, having a lot of fun.
Tony, tell me a little bit about yourself, background, history, etc.
Well, for example, I've been coming to Las Vegas since 1976. It's changed a few times. I've been to a lot of shows, a lot of events, and in the last 20 years, I somehow got connected with this reverse logistics returns world, otherwise known as the dark side. Because forward's all nice and pretty and moves fast. The reverse is the opposite. It's not pretty. It doesn't move fast, and it's a challenge, but we've addressed it successfully in the last 25 years that I've been in this industry, and I'm happy to be here for that reason.
How would you describe what reverse logistics even is? Because I know some people just struggle hearing that word.
They do, and actually, Rich, I've never liked the term reverse logistics. When I was at Phillips and they tried to make me a reverse logistics guy, I'm like, no, I'm not a logistics guy. I'm a sales guy. So now I'm an opposite sales guy. So let's call me the returns guy, and I'm happy with that. And that's what it is. People don't understand, like you said, you hear logistics and it's moving. But when you hear returns, you're like, oh, that's what happens with all that stuff I take back to Amazon or Walmart. Yeah, that's where we live. That's where we live, Rich.
No, I feel you. I'm a recovering marketing director trapped within the body of a reverse logistician, and I've started calling it circular logistics because it invokes a meaning and a passion.
I agree.
But you've dedicated a large portion of your life recently into the movement of product away from the person who had it. Talk to me about how you got involved with the Reverse Logistics Association and what that association is all about.
Once upon a time, Rich, I was a happy-go-lucky sales and marketing guy too. And then one day, Phillips management, senior team, said to me, go fix the returns problem. It's only $200 million a year for a $2 billion company. It was kind of a big number. And this was 1998, 99. There was no RLA. There were no good, easy answers. I had to go look for them. I had to go read the book that we all talk about, going backwards. Like, how do you do something about returns? And I'm not sure if it was chance, luck, my fortune, just all the good things that happened that I discovered ways to reduce returns, make an impact. And then I found RLA in the early 2000s, and I became a board member, very engaged, watched it rise, do well, watched it start to slip, decline in the mid 2015, 2016. And at that point, I stepped in and was able to take over. And Rich, as you know, I started out with a great board. You were on it. The advisory board made all the difference in the world. And we built from zero in 2017 up to where we are today. And we are now part of the National Retail Association as well. So we're part of the NRF, and that's been a good road to go down, and it's been important. And you're right, it's become a passion for me. And I don't know how that happens. How do you fall in love with returns? Okay, it's just, how does it happen, Rich? You've done it too, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I remember last year hearing that the revenue from retail was $5.13 trillion. Unwanted returns at that point were about $760 billion. It's north of that now. The latest numbers were north of 800. The size of the secondary market, $750 billion and growing. So almost 30% of the opportunity to impact the net revenue from retail flows through reverse, and not a lot of people know how to do it. So talk to me a little bit about the National Retail Federation buying the Reverse Logistics Association and taking over and adding that to the portfolio of tools that they're arming their members with. Talk to me about how that came about and what you're seeing evolve through the National Retail Federation relationship?
Well, the National Retail Federation is about 120 years old, and they're focused on retailers, and they say they have 4.9 million members because there's 4.9 million retailers in the United States. And you know what they all have in common, Rich? They all get returns. They all get returns. And there's basically, Rich, the NRF recognizes retailers to become the center point of the universe of returns, because they're the people who sell stuff and they get that stuff back. Now, some cases they make it, some cases they make it and sell it themselves, but it's all about retail sells and then suddenly returns come back. And the three-legged stool that I refer to always, Rich, is number one, how can you reduce what returns that are coming back? How can you do something about the people who are buying your products, loving it and not wanting to bring it back? Number one. Number two, it's okay, they're going to come back. What do you do with it? How do you process it quickly? What do you do to move it, to do something with it? And then number three, how do you maximize the recovery of the costs that are associated with that return? And that's it. It's that simple a universe. Reduce them, move them quick, and do something good with them. And there's so many solutions, of course. And I'm proud of the NRF and our relationship with them. They're going to help grow our events. They're going to help grow our education, which they've already done. We're very proud of what they've done. And this has only been 1 year, basically, Rich, right? About a year.
When I was first pulled into this element of reverse logistics, I was given advice that you want to be the elevator repair person. Because if you've ever met an elevator repair person, it's because something broke and you're stuck in an elevator. You never want to be that person. So a lot of people thought that reverse logistics, the success of it was being invisible. Driving down on one of returns is a good thing. Not having people go through and have a warranty claim is a good thing. But now with the circular economy and the desire to go through and drive some return streams up, the skill set needed within reverse is evolving. Yes. And the benefits evolving. So if you were to go through and speak directly to leaders of the organizations in the NRF, because we all had the same problem. We were in a complex industry that not a lot of people understood, and being a fraction of the revenue got a fraction of the attention, but the National Retail Federation is changing that. So when you're talking to business leaders about reverse logistics, what are you telling them to help make it easier for the people that are working in reverse to enact positive change?
For the retailers and for the manufacturers who make this stuff, what they have to recognize is somebody's got to be in charge. We have no C-level executives in charge of returns because nobody wants to be on the dark side. We have no C-level reverse logistics people. We have some C-level sustainability, but we're like a stepchild of all those, and we're not supply chain. So I tell people, at least get a vice president. If you're a big company, have a vice president who is responsible for developing programs to reduce returns, process them well, and recover the most for them. And most companies don't. So my advice to the business leaders is put somebody in charge. Now, the flip side of that, Rich, is no one's educated to do that, right? I'm proud to say you are one of the few people in the world with a master's degree in reverse logistics from American Public University, the only school in the country offering that kind of a program. So we focus on education. You have to, this is not a good one to learn trial by fire, because a lot of this stuff goes into the trash, goes in landfills, goes in the wrong places. So business leaders, put somebody in charge. We talked about, remember, the returns rate when I took over was about 8%. Now it's at 17%. So regardless of the numbers, because the economy grows, the rate is staggering. And this is not good. That means 1 out of every 5 or 6 products that's being sold is coming back. And there's nothing wrong with most of them, right, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the evolution of return rates growing at a staggering rate.
Yes.
COVID was one of the most major disruptions in the supply chain that ever took place.
Yes.
And it's one of the things that changed the way that people use technology in massive ways. Online shopping, home delivery, telepresence, telemedicine. When you couldn't go to the stores and companies had to evolve, a lot of the policies and processes didn't evolve. So Tony, how does returns in a retail store and the rates in a retail store compared to those online, because now that's the way that a lot of people are buying.
So when we talk rates, Rich, we are talking about retail value. Okay, number one. So we're not talking cost, but the rates at brick and mortar stores has held in that 8 to 10% range. It's the e-commerce that you referred to that set it off on steroids. I mean, you think about apparel, it could be as much as a 40 to 50% returns rate because of those amazing inventions by e-commerce like wardrobing and bracketing and so on. So it's e-commerce that's driving it. And as more of the economy shifts towards e-commerce, we get more returns. I expect the rate to continue to go up as long as e-commerce increases the rate of their share. But brick and mortar is still holding because people go in a store, they try something on, they put the tool in their hands, they turn the TV on, they're looking at things, they're touching it. It's a tactile, it's a 3D experience. When you shop online, it's a 2D experience.
Right.
And in your mind, you have an expectation. When it arrives at your house, you open the box and you're like, oh, that's not the color I wanted. Or that's bigger than I thought it was. Or it's smaller than, I mean, there's so many things that go wrong on a 2D experience versus 3D. And that's what the world's about. And until they figure out how to do holograms in your house, I think they're going to continue to have that problem, Rich.
No, totally agree. And as people have changed the buying behavior,
Yeah.
you go into a store and you try on 3 different jackets and you pick the color or the size that you want. You don't have that option online. So bracketing is you might buy 3 different sizes, find the one that fits you, and send the other 2 back. One of the things that I've seen be a challenge to the evolution from successful retail to successful online is the return process, the rules, how you go through and keep things in production. When someone goes through and tries on 3 things at home, which is basically the same methodology of trying on 3 things in a dressing room, only those things aren't leaving the store. There's no transaction. So if you apply a logic that a thing goes from new to used as soon as it's bought, that makes a lot of sense in retail. It's easy to do. But how do you keep from devaluing things, and how do rules need to evolve as the way that people shop evolve in online?
Well, the evolution, Rich, with e-commerce is they wanted to capture more business, so they made returns free and easy. Now, unfortunately, we're trying a carrot and stick approach, only that most retailers, e-commerce, are only using a stick. And by stick, I mean charging a restocking fee or charging a little bit for freight. That's the stick. No one's figured out a carrot yet, Rich, and that's too bad. They've got to figure that carrot out. You're right about the bracketing. You're right about the expectations. But someone's got to try the carrot. And a carrot could be, Rich, you go shopping online. They know you. AI can help them know you. They know what size shoes you bought in the past. And if they see you online buying a pair of shoes that's the wrong size, AI should pop up a little window and say, hey, Rich, you bought these before, wrong size. Don't buy them again. In a nice way. In a nice way. And so we haven't got there yet, Rich. That's a ways away. But we made the mistake of teaching the country, the people, the world, buy it online and it's easy and free to return it. Now, maybe it's slightly inconvenient. Maybe it's $1 for dropping it off at UPS. Maybe it's a couple dollars for dropping it off at another place. Is that enough of an inconvenience to change the culture? Probably not. But if you go the other way and figure out carrots. Now, Rich, you come online, you're buying something, and it remembers that you are rarely returning things. And now it says, you know what, Rich, we have a special price for you. You take this as a non-returnable item, and we knock 20% off, 10% off, whatever. We haven't got there yet, Rich, but someone's going to do it. The carrots are ready. And by the way, Marriott hotels do this all the time, right? Non-refundable room, it's cheaper than a room that's got a refund. Airlines do this all the time. It's not rocket science, or I wouldn't be doing this. So kind
Absolutely.
of goes that way, Rich.
And not all sizes are equal. You go through, you buy a large in one brand,
Oh,
and shoe sizes are the same thing. So
there's that nightmare.
it's really cool how artificial intelligence is going through and recommending sizes now based upon buying
brand.
behavior and return behaviors cross brand.
Yep.
Because if you bought a medium in this brand this size and you returned it because it was too loose, you're a large in this brand from this size based upon other
It's coming, Rich. It's absolutely coming. They'll know that you buy a Brooks Brothers shirt, and that size fits you. But if you buy it in Calvin Klein shirt, you better take a different size, kind of a thing. So you're right. It's coming. Women's clothing, shoes, all of that's going to happen because AI can absorb all that information about you and about everybody. It's a little frightening too, right? But let's just say we've given up. Google knows everything about us. Anyways, they may as well know our underwear size,
They
okay?
even know where you are right now.
They kind of do, yes.
They definitely do.
They kind of do. But
So-
yeah, it's all coming. I wish it was coming faster. And I wish people would focus on that aspect of how do you reduce returns, because ultimately that's better for the planet, that's better for all of us, and ultimately it keeps prices down because it costs money to move all those returns. And we're moving air, we're moving stuff that there's nothing wrong with it. So we're getting there, and I won't see it all work out, but in the 20 some years I've been at this, I've seen improvements and worsening nightmares with the return rates. But I was so proud of Philips that we took a returns rate down significantly within 4 years. And it wasn't, again, rocket science, Rich. There's just good, easy ways to reduce returns.
One of the barriers to the circular economy is the success of the linear economy. And your make, distribute, sell
Good point.
model,
Yes.
where product goes to the user with alignment. Manufacturers go through and offer sales incentives to get them to distributors. The distributors offer sales incentives to customers, and it's kumbaya when people are buying. But when things go back, there's resistance, as you mentioned, return reasons. You have to pay for shipping. You get it free. So there was barriers to get things back. And in the book Going Backwards, the whole premise behind the book was driving down unwanted returns. Philips, as you mentioned, has put very aggressive, in an amazing way that I admire, goals to go through and drive circular sales and build the circular economy. So how do you see companies and culture change as the desired outcome to drive down unwanted returns with return prevention in mind to preserve revenue, evolving as the circular economy returns, product as a service, lease, trade-ins that actually try to drive up returns, breaking when the history has always been returns are bad. Now some of them are good.
Well, Rich, to your point, as the brands recognize that there's this whole secondary market. I mean, it used to be a black market, gray market. You threw your goods into a bidding contest, and somebody would buy a truckload of your stuff, and they'd sell it at flea markets and pawn shops and things like that. So we needed to stop that. And people say, why are there so many electronics companies in the RLA? Well, there are because they understood the concept of being circular. Take that stuff back, refresh it. Digital products, by and large, don't go bad, by and large. And look at what the mobile phone industry has done. They've created an entire new industry of selling the old phones and recovering so much of the cost because they're keeping people going on phones. So electronics companies had to do something. Because the other problem with electronics, Rich, is once you take it out of the box, plug it in the wall, the government says it's used. I don't care what you think, it's been used. Clothing's a little different, but when you think about things like Donna Karan purses that are $5,000, Yves Saint Laurent, some of these high-end brands have not figured out how do we reduce returns here? How do we prevent them? Because this is expensive. And, you know, a little trick like tracking serial numbers, unique identifiers, things like that are what the fashion industry needs to borrow from the electronics industry. And I'm so proud, Rich, this year at our conference, we'll have those brands together. We'll have Nordstrom as a keynote. We'll have Amazon as a keynote. And those are companies that are learning. We got to figure out how to do something about these. And being circular is the key. You're right. Being circular is the key. And by the way, just to toss on that, being circular also means at the very beginning, at the design stage. How are we going to make this thing? Can we use reuse components? Can we do things with recycled, cannibalized? Can we? And certainly in the service side, you can. But can you design circular? I just read Intel created the concept of a modular computer. Pull out an old drive, pull out an old core processor, put in a new one, And the computer you've been carrying for 2 years, you can still love it and use it some more. So there's really some cool things coming, Rich, that are starting to happen about becoming circular, design for use and reuse.
One of the things that I learned was going from sales and marketing for me was like going from tennis to taekwondo. The rules of engagement were totally different.
Yeah.
And if you messed up, it hurt.
Yes.
Going from reverse logistics from Verizon to reverse logistics at Cisco was much easier for me than going from sales and marketing within Verizon to reverse logistics at Verizon. And when I found the RLA, I found a lot of people that had similar challenges with trying to solve problems, and there's a lot more in the center of the Venn diagram for reverse than on the outsides. Talk to me about the Reverse Logistics Conference this year. You mentioned that there's going to be new focus on categories like fashion, which is really needed. But what should people expect about the RLA this year, and how do they find it?
Well, we'll be here in Las Vegas in a month. And we're really proud, though, to be connected with Manifest. I've been connected with them since the beginning. And I love the fact that they think returns are important. And not enough supply chain organizations do, because we're a stepchild. So at our event, we are still the only global voice of the industry, the only global association, the only one doing events like this. And our event is focused extremely high content. The industry thought leaders, how did they figure out best practices? That's important, but also important, what's new, what's coming that's going to make a difference. And also what's important is education. For the last 5-6 years, I keep doing surveys. What do the members need? What do professionals in reverse need? Education was number one. So education-wise, we are proud not only of American Public University that you've been through, we're proud to offer a master class that you and Peter Evans and Deborah Dull will be hosting. It's only 3 hours, but it's a beginning. We're also proud that the National Retail Federation, which produces training tapes and training interviews, interviewed one of our own board members and created a chapter on reverse logistics operations. So you're coming to an event where all the education is starting to bubble up. People are paying attention. You can never be too good a professional in reverse logistics. So if you come to the event, and then we do special things, like we said, the keynote speakers from Nordstrom, which has the rack, and that's the ultimate circular economy store.
Right.
We have Amazon participating about the returns world. We have the board members. We have some of the best board companies on the planet. And I guarantee anyone who's there will go away learning something about either best practices or the newest best practices. And it's 3 days of really strong content and a lot of opportunity to network with yourself, with many others. We're just very proud. There's even a women's luncheon with a great speaker, very passionate woman, Claudia Freed, who gives you one avenue of what to do with returns, which is to donate them and turn them into education grants. So we're really proud of Claudia, the women's luncheon. I hear she's great. I don't get to hear her because I'm not allowed in the room. I'm the executive director. I'm not allowed in that room. But that's okay. It's important that we mentor, that we train, we educate, we influence, and we make a difference. And at the end of the day, Rich, I spent 20 years in sales before this happened. And at the end of the day, I understand now we make a bigger difference than they do. You can keep selling and keep selling, but somebody's got to do something with all that stuff that comes back.
You can make the money, but someone's got to keep it.
Someone's got it, yes.
Yeah.
So, Tony, excuse me, you mentioned briefly that, you attended the first Manifest and now, you're here at this one. What do you think has been the biggest change that you've seen?
Well, I don't know that I can speak to the forward change. What I can speak to is the event itself. They're now up to 6 tracks simultaneously, and as you walk around, you sense that they do look for the best industry voices out there. And I certainly have met a number of them, and I'm proud to see them here. I mentioned Deborah Dull and some others, but there's that, and then there's always new technology on the forward side. It takes a lot longer to find its way to the dark side, but on the forward side, there's very cool technology in that expo hall, things that are being done to improve the forward supply chain faster and better. And so I do see that. And everything is better when there's a lot more people involved, Claudia, a lot more people involved. And this event is, 10x the original event in 4 years. So proud to see what they're doing. And again, I'm not a logistics guy, so this is not my show, but I'm here as a returns reverse specialist, and proud to say to these people, pay attention to this part too, because no one inside your company usually is. And so the big change is the growth and the focus on industry leaders and new technology. That's all happening here.
Well, Tony, thank you for giving this industry a voice and providing education and really helping the sales channels evolve through smart practices.
I tend to get carried away a little bit, Rich. People may have noticed that this has become a really big passion, and I don't understand it. I mean, I was really just a happy sales guy, and suddenly it became important to make a difference. And we do make a difference, and I'm so proud to say I'm not the only one anymore. I used to feel like a voice in the wilderness, Rich, and then I met you, and then I met Greg Scrivan, and then I met Nikos Papanayo, and all these amazing people who just do care about making a difference, and that involves all those things we talked about with returns. So very honored to be here with all of you, with our colleagues, and thank you.